Yeah, hello. So today we will see microservice based architecture. In this, sometimes what happened, we are playing with different microservices, right? So each service having different port, like 8081, its local port 8081, 8082, 8083, right? So each service need to deploy on one of the service registry. So we can call that service registry is as a Eureka server. So Eureka server is developed by Netflix Eureka server, right? So today we will see how this service discovery work. In this GIF, you can see we have service discovery. So you can see here server side discovery as well as client side discovery. So microservices register with service discovery. So in server side discovery, you can see three servers, like three services, service 1, 2, and 3, and all comprises of microservices, right? So what happened when each microservice instance, that is service 1, 2, and 3, register itself with a service registry, right? Whenever we start the application, like if we are using a microservice based application using Spring Boot, right? So each service having different port, like service 1 having 8080, 2 is having 8081, and 3 is having 8082. So each of the service is deployed on Eureka server. So on client side, first of all, we'll see uh, how client send a request, and then what internal mechanism happens. When client send a service request to the load balancer, here you can see this is client, and when no, first of all, what happened? All the services, these are three microservices, register in this service registry, that is Eureka server. This is the work of developer. Now, whenever client send a request like HTTP colon, like uh, www.flipkart.com, then client send a request. You can see here number two. That request goes to first to the load balancer. Means the client send a service request to the load balancer. Then client, in this case what happened, client doesn't need to what we can say, take care of that, like where we need to forward this request. All these things taken care by the load balancer. So client send a request to the load balancer first, and client doesn't don't need to the location of that particular service. Instead it communicates with the load balancer. Means client will communicate with the load balancer, and load balancer will handle all the request where load balancer need to route. Means it will handle all the request where it need to route, right? If request comes, if load balancer wants to route that request to service 1, it will route here. If we want to route on service 2, then load balancer will route the request to service 2, right? Then what happened, uh, load balancer uh, will have the request which comes from client. So in this case, all the load balancer queries the request to service registry in the form of message, right? Then service registry having all the instances, whatever instances are deployed by all the developer. So load balancer queries the request to the service registry, right? And service registry having the list of the available instances which already requested from the service microservices. Then load balancer needs to know the available instances, because load balancer request to service registry will process the request and will give the available instances to the load balancer back, right? It's a fourth step. Now what happened, load balancer will know the instances what he has, right? The service registry responds to the load balancer with a list of available instances, and the load balancer now knows the what we can say all the instances, so that load balancer will route the client request to particular services. Understood? Means load balancer will take the response from service registry, then load balancer know all the available instances which he is having, and then client already requested to the load balancer. Accordingly, load balancer will route the particular request to all the services. In this way, server side discovery works. Now, what happened? The load balancer forward the client request to one of the services. Now, load balancer ensures that the client request is handled by an available service instance, right? Means load balancer will need to handle all the services. For that, here load balancing technology is used. In this case, different company using different technology. Like most famous technology to balance the load is round robin principle. Means we need to create the instance of particular services. All the instances will go to that service one by one. Means in a round robin principle. So this is server side discovery. Now we will see client side discovery. Same as like server side discovery, but something modification in that. So what happened? Just like a server side discovery, each microservice instance register itself, its service registry. Then this ensures that the service registry maintains up to date list of all the instances, right? Microservice will register all the services to this service registry. This is point number one. Now we have client. Client means user like us. In server side discovery, you can see that client will not directly request to the microservice. It will bypass through load balancer and then each request go to the microservice. But in client side discovery, you can see that client will query directly to the service registry, not through the load balancer. Means here one step will goes down. And then client queries the request to the service registry directly to the disk. Means it will request to service registry whatever the instances you are having, please give me that instance so that I can process and I can route the request to particular microservice. See here you can see that direct request goes to the microservices. Means no need to use round robin principle like load balancing principle. We don't need to use in client side discovery. Basically, client side is responsible for querying the service registry, discovering the service instance, and load balancing. But we no need to use load balancing in client side discovery. And now we will see one real-time example of how service registry works. Like in this case, we have two microservices. One is order microservice and another one is inventory microservice, right? So in this case, order microservice is client and inventory microservice is server, right? So in our real life, what we can say, we can write the URL in our address bar like www.swiggy.com or wherever we want to place an order to buy something like in flipkart.com. So we are the client like user and that Flipkart application is the server. So here order service need to check the inventory of the product before placing an order. Means we are not just buying the product directly as soon as we go through the website. We just need to check the price of the product as well as the warranty of the product as well as color and some features of the product, so that we can ensure the long life of that product. And after getting this much details, we will place the order. So in this case also, client means order service first send a request, means order service need to check the inventory of the product, right, before placing the order. Means order service act as a client and inventory service act as a server. So inventory service provides the information about the product, means that product is available or not, right? Means the inventory service act as a server. So in the server side discovery, what happened? Order service means client, that is user, send a request to the load balancer, right? Then load balancer queries the request to the service registry. Service registry will check, hey, is there any small services are registered in the service registry or not? If service registry has the service, like in this case, we have inventory service, then load balancer already requested for one of the service which is inside service registry. Then service registry tell to the load balancer, yes, I have one service called inventory service. And then this instance goes to the load balancer, means load balancer know we key load balancer having one service. And already our client send a request to the inventory service, right? Means client request will go to the load balancer have this inventory service, and load balancer will route this request to the inventory service only, not to the others. In this way, server side discovery work in case of client server architecture. Now, how client side discovery work, right? So order service act as a client, inventory service act as a server. So order service means client directly queries to the microservices, not to the load balancer, right? Directly queries to the service registry. Yeah. Uh, okay. So client already check this in the service registry whether that this instance is available or not. And already our microservices is registered in this service registry. So now client will route the request directly to the microservices, not to the by not passing through load balancer. So in this way, client side discovery work. So this is the way our service discovery work, and it is given by Netflix Eureka server. Yeah, thank you.